I'm Daniel from Creation. Now, we've been studying the online behaviors of healthcare professionals all over the world and the kind of networks that they create with each other in public social media channels. There's one thing that this relationship between healthcare professionals depends on. It's not technology, it's not any particular social media platform. The answer is trust. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a number of metrics that we use at Creation to understand the levels of trust that exist between healthcare professionals online. When we carried out a study on the spread of Zika virus all over the world, and we tracked what doctors, nurses, pharmacists, other healthcare professionals were saying about Zika, we found one professor in Brazil who consistently curated leading authority content on Zika from all over the world as the disease spread. And she became, in a sense, maybe a digital opinion leader, a leading authority on Zika through the posts that she was submitting and posting out there on social media. So the first thing to think about when considering which healthcare professionals might be particularly relevant or influential is as simple as that. Are they posting content on the topics that you're interested in? The disease areas, the indications, the types of treatments. And with Creation Pinpoint, what we do is we distill that conversation, all the healthcare professionals anywhere in the world that are talking about the topics you're interested in. We studied about 200 healthcare professionals who were particularly active in social media during one 3-day medical congress meeting. And what we did is we looked to see who was following those individuals on social media. And we saw between those 200, about 40,000 other healthcare professionals all over the world were following them, but significantly more than 1 million other individuals who were not healthcare professionals were also following them. So a second thing to think about when you're considering who are the most significant, influential healthcare professionals on public social media in your areas of interest is what is the sort of balance between their peer HCP following and their public following, and what matters to you? So I think that the most significant thing that this relationship between healthcare professionals that takes place online relies upon is trust. But how do we measure that trust? We've talked about healthcare professionals following each other and how we can look at that. We've talked about how we see which healthcare professionals are curating or sharing content on a particular topic area. But one way we can understand something about the trust that exists among healthcare professionals online is the extent to which they actually reference each other, quote each other, or mention each other in conversations. In one particular conversation that we studied, it was a tweet chat actually taking place among healthcare professionals with a very specific area of therapy area focus. We observed significant levels of conversation taking place between individuals in that overall tweet chat, which rapidly gave us a picture of some of the most trusted relationships that were taking place between those healthcare professionals. It's one indicator that points towards this kind of trust that exists between professionals online. We carried out a study of healthcare professionals in the United Kingdom that were using public social media, and we took a sample of 7,500 of those healthcare professionals to illustrate how they were networked to each other, how they followed each other, and the sort of interactions across the network that existed on public social media channels. And what we saw when we clustered this whole sort of illustration together of thousands of healthcare professionals was that actually there were tight, close networks among individual role types. Often nurses would cluster together and follow each other, pharmacists would, and other specialisms would. But right in the middle of the network, those healthcare professionals who were most connected to each other, we saw a very diverse range of healthcare professional role types. So in a sense, the best HCP peer connected individuals were those who were connected to many different role types. So a significant thing to consider when you're looking at identifying which healthcare professionals are the most relevant influencers is what is their role type and how do they connect with other peers in different healthcare professional roles. Creation Pinpoint, our platform for profiling healthcare professionals on public social media and understanding what they're talking about, includes a number of measures to understand an individual's influence upon other healthcare professionals and the relationships that exist among healthcare professionals. But another important factor when you're thinking about identifying the most significant influences among healthcare professionals in a particular piece of research is what is their influence in the public space. And there are a number of tools and indicators that will give you some data on that will tell you something about the way other people interact with them. What's interesting is that at the extremes, often we find media-focused, almost celebrity doctors who are so actively engaged among hundreds of thousands of members of the public. They will be often very strong advocates of particular ideas around public health or treatment of patients. They can be significant influences in the public space. These individuals don't always have a huge amount of credibility or influence among their peers. So it's worth considering. When we analyze the social media behaviors of healthcare professional influencers, what we find is some of them are very familiar and comfortable using long-form social media, such as writing blog posts or contributing to Medium, maybe taking part in a conversation on Quora. These kind of posts are often thought through. They're not the kind of things that healthcare professionals will be posting many times a day, sometimes not even every week or every other week. On the other hand, we find some healthcare professionals who are very active on short-form social media, things like Twitter, maybe Instagram. And they may well post many posts on any individual day. And each post may have limited value, but when it's put together as a whole, you get to understand something deeper about what that healthcare professional feels. So when you're thinking about identifying healthcare professionals who may be particularly interesting to you or relevant to you or seen as influencers and significant, think about the channels they're using. Which ones would you be comfortable maybe listening into, learning from, maybe even engaging with? Are there channels that you're already engaging with and you find that there are healthcare professionals that are using these channels, and that gives you a comfortable environment to understand what they're saying and how they're saying it? Don't forget to think about your existing relationships with healthcare professionals when you're looking to identify and profile those healthcare professionals who are most influential and significant in a particular topic area online. Because what we discover in the studies that we do often is individual doctors or other healthcare professionals who may be seen as very influential online, and often our clients will tell us, oh, we knew who that doctor is, but we had no idea they were very influential online. In other cases, a pharmaceutical company might have a group of what it thinks of as key opinion leaders, and it might be interested to discover that some of those key opinion leaders turn out to be digital opinion leaders too. So we looked at 7 metrics for understanding who your healthcare professional digital opinion leaders are. We thought about content. What are the healthcare professionals sharing in public social media? We thought about their peer versus public following. We talked about trust among other healthcare professionals. We thought about their role. We thought about the level of public influence. We thought about the social media channels that they're using. And finally, I talked about the existing relationship that you have with these healthcare professionals. If you'd like to read more on these topics, go to our e-journal, creation.co/knowledge, where we publish a lot of our latest thinking. We're constantly learning new things, and we'd love to share that with you.